8-foot wide. We started cutting them 20 foot wide. So now when you got to cut a coal in the ground, it was 20 feet wide and 8 foot deep. As soon as he'd cut that undercut, he'd move that machine up into about 60 feet and we start cutting another place. The next guy followed him with that 8-foot drill.
What drill?
Now instead of drilling 3 holes, he has to drill 5 because it's 20 foot wide. As soon as he would drill those 5 holes, the shot fire, that was the dynamite man, he would put 3 sticks of powder in each hole. Now we went from shooting 3 little balls of black powder to shooting 15 sticks of dynamite. There's a big difference. So when you hear somebody holler, fire, fire, fire in the hole, you better get you a safe place real quick. As soon as they shoot that coal loose, they bring old Marvin down there with that loading machine, them gathering arms, and he'd gather up the coal. Every section had 2 or 3 of these roof bolt machines. And what this machine does, if you look above your heads, anywhere you see these little 6x6 plates, that means there's a roof bolt in the top. These roof bolts bolt this rock together and they make it a lot stronger. Now the way this machine works, you've got to have a piece of drill steel to drill that hole. Now you can put it in the drill head and you can move this machine anywhere you want. It's got trim levers. You move that machine, put this up against the top, turn this machine on, and it'll start drilling. Now, as soon as you drill that hole, you put a roof bolt in it. Now, this is one of the first bolts they ever had. It's called a resin, called a chuck bolt or a conventional bolt. Now, the way this bolt works, you put it in that hole you just drilled. You push it all the way up to the top, and you spin it for about 5 seconds. And it tightens up. But what makes this bolt tighten up is this wedge on the end. When you spin this bolt, that wedge comes down on some threads and pushes these 3 little fingers out. Well, when they spread out and grip in that rock, it tightens up. That's how it anchors. And they used this bolt up until 1970. In 1970, they came out with a new bolt. And it looked like this. It's called a glue bolt or a resin bolt. Now the way this bolt works, you drill a hole and you put this stick of glue up in it. Well, when you start up with this bolt, when that glue hits the top of that hole, this bolt ruptures this cartridge as you push it up. You end up with that much glue on that bolt. You push this bolt up close to the top and you spin it for 5 seconds. You're mixing the glue. Then you hold it up against the roof and it glues it up. Now them old miners seen this and they shook their heads. That'll never work. 53 years later, we are still using this today. Still using this bolt today. It's a good job, they really do. Now, did you see any of these coming through the mine? Yes. Anybody know what this is called? This is called a pizza pan. Pizza pan. Up until last winter, we did not have any of these in this mine. Now, Beckley Coal sent 4 or 5 people over here, and Jim Marv, which makes these roof bolts, and they did a little community project. They came in here and put up over 450 of these, just to help hold the roof and the ribs the way they are. And they're talking about in the future coming back and doing some more. They do a good job, they really do. Now I want to tell you a little bit about these rocks laid here. That big round rock laying right there on the bottom, and that little one on top, those are called sulfur balls. And you find sulfur balls in the coal seam. Now miners today hardly ever see these because they have a continuous miner that chews everything up. So when it comes to these, a lot of times it chews them up. But those are called sulfur balls. Now these other rocks laying here, these are called kettle bottoms. And what you'll have in the mines, once they take the coal out and they leave this rock, a lot of times you'll look up and you'll see a circle.
A circle?
And that circle will be a kettle bottom. What does this one look like to you? It's like a tree?
Yeah.
That's what it is. It's petrified wood. That's what these kettle bottoms are. Now these kettle bottoms, they'll fall out in chunks and pieces. Usually anywhere from 6 inches thick to 18 inches thick. And they've crippled and hurt a lot of coal miners. If you have a kettle bottom in your mine today, your roof control plan will tell you it's got to be supported where it cannot fall out. They take a little thin strap and they put across that circle, and they'll put a roof bolt in each side so it can't fall out. You got to take care of it, else somebody will get hurt with it. Now, let me tell you a little bit about this lunchbox. This is a 4-piece bucket. If you got one of these at home, don't throw it away. They're selling for about $125. Now this is just the lid. Anybody know what this part's called?
Dessert or something.
It's called the pie pan. This is what he took his dessert in. Now they didn't have little Debbie cakes back in them days. They didn't have candy bars. And I asked a lot of them old miners what they took. And they'd say, well, if my wife made a homemade cake or homemade pie, that's what he took it in. Later in life, I saw a lot of guys use this. They put their billfold in there and their car keys, so they wouldn't lose them underground. This part of the bucket was what he took his sandwich in, or his apple, or whatever else he took. This part was the most important part. This is what he carried his drinking water in, the bottom of this bucket. Did you know up until 1969 they never gave him a drink of water?
Whoa.
Yeah, you had to carry your own. Many times I went back to get me a drink and I didn't have any water. Somebody came through and drunk it. So a little bit after that, a guy came up with a way to keep people from drinking your water. So I'm going to show you what he did. Here's what he did to keep people from drinking your water.
What did he do?
Yeah. That's what he did to keep people from drinking your water.
No.
Dentures. What?
Take the dentures.
Oh.
What?
Yeah, that would do it.
That's what he did to keep people from drinking your water.
Oh, wow.
Did you drink that water? No.
Nope. No thanks.
When you come on back down and get it, grab a food.
Now I want you to notice that round bucket on the bench over there. It's got some wire on the lid. You know what that wire was used for? It is a piece of blasting wire. But miners would take a piece of wire and they would wire this lid to the handle. So a rat would wrap his tail around this and flip this off.
Yeah.
Rats would get in your lunch bucket. They learn how to do that.
Wrap this tail.
No, it's wire.
It will hold the lid.
Let me tell you a little bit about rats in coal mines. Those old miners knew that if they had a rat in that area where they was working, it was safe. But when they sat down to eat, they threw out some scraps for the rat. Now a rat won't stay in an unsafe area. If you got bad roof, you got bad ribs, you got bad air, the rat won't stay here. You go somewhere else in the mines. And them old miners knew that. So they'd feel safer if there was a rat around. Now there's no saying if you're in the mines and you see some rats starting to run out, you better go with them. Something's going on, something's happening. There's a lot of truth to that. There is. Now I'm going to show you this little scooter and tell you a little bit about it. You know, in the early days, they didn't have magic tools. A lot of them old miners crawled into mines, they worked all day, didn't have to crawl back out. They just didn't have rides for it. They would get them a scooter like this or make them one. If they had track in their mines, you could lay this on a track rail. You laid it on a rail and you got down on your knee. You pushed yourself with your foot And down through there you went. Yeah, we think we have it hard today. Coal miners had a tough life. I started in the mines in 1972, and people were still using these when I started. Just to get around in mine. Now I'm gonna tell you a little bit about this telephone. Even in the early days, they had communication. If you was in here working and you needed some longer timbers, or maybe had a man hurt, you could go to that phone call outside and get some help. But many times I heard that phone ring and ring and ring. It's loud. I start crawling down there and I get down there and I'd answer that phone. I'd say, hello. You know what they'd say? How much coal have you loaded? That's all they cared about. They didn't care about nothing else. They just want to know how much coal you was loading. I worked for a guy 18 years, and every day when we came outside, he was standing in the truck watching for us. He owned a company. He knew what time we quit. He'd see us coming, and when we got close to him, here's what he'd do. Push his arm sleeve up, and he'd look at his watch.
You wanna know how time you left?
He would stand there till we got up to him. We'd stop the main trip, everybody'd get out. He'd say, hey men, you're 2 minutes early. You could have loaded another shuttle car. It didn't matter how much you loaded, it was never enough. Always wanted a little bit more. Got any questions?
This mine is not being worked at all then?
No. Just so you'll know today, this trip that we're taking on these little carts covers 1,550 feet. If we went from right here to the top of this mountain, you're about 125 feet underground, each one of you.
How long did you work for the coal companies?
I worked 45 years underground. Now the last 10 years I worked, I was a federal mine inspector. I went to different mines inspecting. A whole lot.
How many are there in this area, mines?
In West Virginia, we've got about 100 mines operating right now.
How much coal is still being used in this?
Five years ago, we had 300. The demand to eliminate fossil fuel and gas is really cut it back a lot.
How has that impacted the economy of West
Well,
Virginia?
here's the thing. We got 2 mines within 10 miles of here. And you know where all their coal goes?
China.
It goes overseas. It goes to Newport News in Virginia and then shipped overseas. Those countries can still use it. So we're mining our coal and sending it to them.
What else is new?
I can't get into the political.
Yeah.
Are there any other things that they're mining for in the area?
No, just coal. Yeah. Here's what you have in West Virginia. You'll have a mountain. You'll have as many as 5 seams of coal in it. And you'll have mines, and each one of them seams of coal mine. Now here's a problem you run into. That bottom mines is down below the water table, and it's got methane gas in it.
No.
So if the mountain cracks, that gas goes up to the next mine. Well, if the mine's on top, it's got a lot of water in it, and the mountain cracks, it goes down to the next mine. And we have created a lot of problems. The whole city of Beckley is undermined. Someday you may read in the paper, the city of Beckley is in a sinkhole. 8 miles in this mine alone is under the city of Beckley. And this is just one seam. There's many as 5 or 6 seams been mined.
And each time they dynamite, doesn't it just continue to keep weakening the rock?
You would think it would, yes.
Have you witnessed any of that?
I've actually been on mountains where you could look down in cracks.
From the
Cracks that
mining?
wide.
From the mining? From the dynamite
From
mining?
being mined underneath, yes. Thank y'all for coming today.
Thank you.
We'll take
Thank you.
questions. You got questions?
Just wondering what the original motors, what were they powered by?
Trolley wire. Had a
Okay.
trolley wire just like in San Francisco
Hey.
streets are. And they converted them to battery now. So here's what I tell everybody, if you're sitting around this evening playing with your phone, I want you to Google Beckley Exhibition Mine. First thing that pops up, it says reviews. Just say, hey Gerald, I went with you today and I enjoyed the tour. Now, if you didn't enjoy the tour, it's okay. Just tell Marvin was your guy the first day.
We won't forget that when we